Jazz clubs around the world are sitting empty, but jazz musicians will always have great music and stories to share. And since jazz fans aren't able to get out to hear great music, we will deliver jazz to you at home. Welcome to Jazz Home Delivery with Tim Tamashiro. Well, hi everybody. Tim Tamashiro here with you for Jazz Home Delivery. This is the show where we take wonderful jazz musicians at home and we bring them to you at home. Consider it delivery. Just glad to be here with you. We're part of the JazzYYC TD International Jazz Days. This is a virtual festival that's taking place over 28 days in a row, featuring 56 Canadian artists, and we're very, very happy to be a part of that initiative. Joining me today, we have our friend David Dallas, a guitarist from Calgary here, who is a jazz guitarist, but he has a great love of country music. And also joining us from Vancouver, the Epotamus. I guess he's everywhere. He's absolutely everywhere because he's that beloved. Guitarist Bill Coon. He's a guitarist and educator. Here we have all three of us. 1, 2, and 3. There's the three of us. We're in the room. Hi, everybody.
Well, hello.
Hey. Hi.
Good to see you, Tim.
Yeah, nice to see you, Tim and David.
Good to see you, Bill.
It's nice to have an all-guitar show because it's going to be nothing but welding and like hammer-ons and, right? Is that...
Yeah.
It's going to be too much guitar.
It's too much guitar. What I love about this, good segue, Bill, because you have a series that you do with Oliver Gannon called Too Much Guitar.
Yes, true.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And how often have you performed that?
We perform fairly often. Of course, it seems like ages now. I keep in touch with Ollie on online, but it seems like a long time. But yeah, we perform quite a bit.
Well, maybe when we can kind of double our bubble and let people come together, even like people that we trust, maybe there's a way that we can have you and Oliver Gannon on the show together. Maybe there'll be too much guitar.
There you go.
For your trademark sound.
Yeah, exactly.
David Dallas from Calgary here, graduate of Grant MacEwan up in Edmonton. I know it's a silly question to ask, but you probably didn't cheer for the Oilers while you were going to school up there.
I didn't.
Yes.
And it was I had friends from Calgary too, who when they got there converted just to fit in. And I blasphemy. And they got the McDavid fever. And I'm not going to rat anybody out. But I was...
Oh, I totally thought you were going to say a name as soon as you said that.
Lips are sealed.
Lips are sealed.
I'm going to have some conversations with them. But no, I brought my Flames jersey up, and, there was actually... there was a lot of Calgary musicians at school.
Nice.
So it's pretty even.
It's kind of our go-to. It was because we only have one real full-on jazz education now in terms of Alberta. And so that's the reason why, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's why David had to go up north. But that's okay. It was only a visit, and you're back home here now and ready to have your own career back home in Calgary. Thanks to you both for being on the show. Bill, I'm going to go talk to David and learn a little bit more about him, and he's got some music he's going to play for us as well. We'll be right back to you, okay?
I'm good.
Awesome. There he is, David
Hello.
Dallas. Oh, you're a handsome young strapping dude.
Oh, you're a handsome young man yourself.
Oh, that's what I was going for. Is the for the cheap give,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. You have a penchant for country music, although you're a jazz guitarist, and you're not the only one who has had that same type of love. You mentioned that Charlie Parker loved listening to Hank Williams records in his leisure. So yeah. What is it about country music that thrills you so much?
Well, I've always just loved, I guess you could say American, but North American music.
Yeah.
Blues, jazz, country, and all of it. And when I was getting into jazz when I was much younger, one of my first introductions to it was the Ken Burns documentary he did about 20 years ago.
About jazz.
Yeah. And
So
he was
good.
telling, yeah, it's wonderful. Especially if you're unfamiliar with it, there's just so much information that you can really build and grow upon, especially some of the earlier stuff. And he was telling stories about specifically Charlie Parker, listening to classical, which I love, like Stravinsky, but then also listening to old jazz records. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I started to kind of dig into that and just kind of stumbled across country jazz influenced sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Bill Frisell is a big name in that,
Mm-hmm.
kind of coming to mind, and some other musicians too. I've done it in the last couple of years. I was really
Nora Jones was really into country, adding country jazz into her repertoire fairly
right.
recently as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just they complement each other really well, especially some of the older stuff, because I think it's the songwriting, is a lot of it kind of comes from the same vein of the rules that people were doing for standards or for musical theater songs or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you just find out that some of your favorite country artists love jazz too. I know that Willie Nelson's done just
Let's have it.
4
Yeah.
records, I think, of standards. One of his first singles as a musician was Stardust, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, and it's just
Hoagie Carmichael.
yeah, exactly. And then it's just emerging some of those loves, and then you realize it makes a pretty cool, interesting sound. So
Well, there's so much of the so many of the sounds, especially in American art forms, come from the southern states. So jazz really was kind of born in the Louisiana area. Country music was a little bit more kind of Midwest and whatnot. However, the interesting thing is, I went and visited Nashville and Memphis, Tennessee. And they say that the way that it kind of splits, the highway, it's almost between the two of them. It kind of splits between blues and jazz, or blues and country, but jazz
right.
is kind of mingling around there somewhere as well, So they're all very, very close as far as creation is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
and a lot of the players mingle in both too. I'm really fascinated and have gotten into guitar players that are in the Nashville community.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of session guys, because they're incredible players in what they have to do in such a short amount of time. And then I kind of went digging, especially when I was at McEwen, for kind of more of an electric fusion stuff for some requirements. And there's a guitarist down there, his name I think is Guthrie Trapp, and he's a session musician, but he also plays with some people, but he has some solo stuff, and it's basically kind of like country jazz guitar. And
nice.
So then it's everywhere. It's wonderful.
So this is something that you're, you're still relatively new on the scene theoretically, because you're still a young guitar player. Is this something that that you see turning into a bit of a sound for you?
I think so. It's definitely just there's so much in terms of guitar technique, gear. There's people who love the sound of a big full hollow body. There's people that love the sound of a smaller Telecaster, and then just the different influences that they're playing. Some guys really get into a blues sound, bit of a country sound. And it's, as I've kind of developed and expanded and stolen stuff from other people, which I guess is how everybody gets their sound.
That's the way you get your stuff.
Is after a while, just kind of becomes your own. I've really noticed it just coming into my playing. I grew up too as a lot of young guitarists learning old rock songs and stuff like that. So I think that it's almost a natural progression, because there's some country improvisation, especially stuff with bluegrass music and stuff like that, where it's almost a bridge in a lot of ways, because there's some chromaticism and stuff like that, which is obviously a foundation of jazz, but there's still a lot of kind of pentatonic stuff that you'll find in rock. So it's pretty, I'm really fascinated that how it's all connected. It's almost like one big thing. Everybody's in on it.
Sure. Well, I'm excited to hear you play. You've sent us a couple of tunes, and I'm really excited to see what you have here. You've chosen "Crazy" as the first tune to play, and
right.
This is the song, as you've already indicated, written by
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson made a big hit by Patsy Cline, and Willie Nelson, of course, has gone on to have a career not only in country music, but several albums of jazz standards and classic American songbook. So what can you tell us about your interpretation?
Well, I was really just looking at the text after transcribing bits and pieces of it, of the Patsy Cline version and stuff like that. But just to take a step back, I guess I first heard kind of potential for this is there's a version of Willie Nelson singing this live, and his vocal style, as we were talking about before we went live, is super similar to jazz singers. He's got quite a delivery with the lyrics,
he
like
back
that.
A little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I was like, this is kind of a jazz tune. And then I said, this would sound really interesting with guitar, because I know there were some people. There's I love when people take recordings of songs that aren't traditionally jazz and make them jazz, but to a point where it actually makes sense, where it fits the original interpretation of the song,
and doesn't go too far outside.
Pardon me?
And then might not go too far outside.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, it's one thing to play Autumn Leaves with like a death metal band, and then you just get like double kicks and the tapping, and we used to get yelled at if we did that at school.
Imagine getting Bill wouldn't yell at you if you were his student.
Not at all.
Yes, he would, he says. Well, we're going to play this song right now, David. David is appearing here on the TD JazzYYC International Jazz Days. This is the virtual festival. David's interpretation now of Crazy. There he is.
Wonderful.
David Dallas with his version of Crazy. Yay.
Yay.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. I got something just for you.
Oh, perfect. I should have got mine out, especially since Stampede's
This is the Bill, just so you know, this is the one of our official accoutrements during the Stampede time, just so you know. This is but this one I actually had designed specifically because it kind of looked like an old-timey one. You got to wear it a little cocked to the side, you know. So that's in honor of you.
It's a bit of that Western swing kind of thing.
It's a little bit of Western swing. I told you I used to have a Western swing band.
You did, yeah.
They called Tim Tamashiro and the Bonanza Little Big Band. It was a 10-piece Western swing orchestra with horn section and steel guitar and fiddle and all that kind of stuff. So it was a real treat to do. So I recommend that you make one of those because it's just so much fun. Great job on Crazy. You are kind of wondering, you know, how do you plan to move forward? You know, I mean, you're still kind of new on the scene and just basically building up a repertoire and building up a sound and getting out there, trying to find the right people to work with. Is this prep time now for you on a new level? Yeah.
The break, I guess, is kind of what I'm calling it. The world break. Has been good. I've been doing quite a bit of teaching, which has been nice. It's definitely something I think we all do, and it's super important. Really pass that stuff along. Reaching out to some people too. I've only been back in Calgary for about less than a year now since I finished school. Yeah. So I was just kind of getting moving with everything.
Still getting used to having you back in town, right?
So I've definitely was going out seeing people. It's funny because the two places are so close. I was getting a lot of, so you're here for the weekend or anything? I'm like, no, I'm here. So if you guys want to, if you want to write something, jam, if you need anybody. So that was really coming along, which is great. For like an individual project though, I really am getting into this sound. I especially with a Telecaster and that kind of thing. Some of my favorite jazz players use Telecasters.
Yeah, I was curious to ask you about what type of guitar that you play. In fact, because traditionally a big jazz guitar is a semi open body sort of thing with pickups on it and whatnot. But a country guitar is more of a Squire or a Telecaster or God knows what, right? But you choose to play Telecaster.
Yeah, I do play a bit of semi-hollow too. It's a bit thinner than some of the bigger jazz boxes that some people like Wes Montgomery or what Pat Metheny's more known for, those kind of styles. More the John Scofield thing. But lately I've just been doing Tele. It's just it's a workhorse and it sounds so great. And
do you play it with a pick or do you play it with a thumbnail?
With a pick, there's a bit of some finger stuff down there a bit. And especially the bit of a country thing. There's every now and then. Yeah. With the pick with the chicken pick kind of thing with the middle finger. Yeah. And the ring and the pinky. Really getting inspired with that. There's a young up and coming guitar player. Well, I guess he's a little older now, but he was a bit of a prodigy, and his name is Julian Lodge, and I saw him use a Tele, and I was like, that sound. And then I was like, well, it's a bit dirty. And then actually the record behind Bill at the garden party, which I adore, and it's Ed Bickert, who just passed away about a year ago. Canadian jazz guitar legend, played a Tele. So I'm like, there's something to this. And then I just it's easy to play. It's something I'm a bit more comfortable with growing up, as a lot of guitar players do, playing more kind of blues or rock stuff. So it's really helped kind of express my own sound, I think.
And do you use effects at all, or is that something that you try to stay away from? Pretty clean sound?
It's pretty clean. It's funny. I've tried to dabble in effects, and I do them a lot if I'm doing other styles of music, but not a ton. Maybe I've more of a vintage style effect sound, so kind of a analog or like tremolo, like that old 60s sound I've thought about using.
That wah, kind of a sound.
Yeah, for some things, but I've noticed that with a lot of guitar players, getting out of kind of the 80s where it was a big kind of washy, coursey sound, which some of it just sounds fantastic, but some of it just almost sounds a bit like you could pinpoint the day it was made because it's like that was the sound for 1984, December 7th.
Yeah. That was the sound everybody used, right?
Yeah. And then so it kind of can pigeonhole it a bit. But
yeah.
I think that using it in certain parts can be great.
Yeah.
Just something that I've fallen in love with the guitar, and then with the amp I'm using, that's all I want to do right now is those, because they're so expressive themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. You've prepared another song for us, and I mean, if this isn't a COVID isolation song, I don't know what is.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
Tell us about this song that you've chosen for us.
Yeah, it's kind of the Western song, I suppose. It's Home on the Range, traditional.
That's isolation song right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was getting into this one. The first time I heard this was actually, I think Bing Crosby sang it when I was just digging through iTunes looking at stuff. And he's somebody too that I guess kind of dabbled in slight jazz vocal styles, or at least American 40s pop vocal styles for sure. And then brought a bit of country to it too with some of his records.
Yeah. And let's not forget about Ray Charles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
That's really, absolutely.
Ray Charles and his country music albums. I mean, that reinvigorated his entire career, and incorporating soul and jazz and country. So this is an exciting journey to be on for you, and I'm sure that it's just going to go into amazing places. I'm going to play that song for you now. Our friend David Dallas is here with the TD JazzYYC International Jazz Days Virtual Festival. He's got this version for you, your COVID song. It'd be nice to be on a ranch right now. You'd have lots of room to roam around. Here's Home on the Range. There you are. Home of the Range. Do love that song. It is just it's a song in the purest sense. You could go anywhere in the world and sing that and Country Roads, and everybody would know the lyrics to it.
It's definitely one of those. Yeah. Absolutely.
Great job, David, and it's been a thrill to have you on board on the show. I'm going to bring Bill in here, and there's the three of us again. The three amigos.
See.
Bill, I wish that the strange thing about being on the air is that you can't hear what's going on, but I can assure you that David did an amazing job, and he's going to send you videos of him playing his songs.
I'm going to be checking out his recordings just after this show, because this is my first time meeting David, and I hopefully not the last time.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. You'll have to get some lessons from Bill Coon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Maybe I'll go.
Yeah,
maybe
that'd be wonderful.
Dallas.
Maybe the other way around, right? Thank you so much, David. I'm going to go talk with Bill.
Thank you.
All righty. Here we go. Bill, it's just you and me. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here with us.
It's a real pleasure, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
The pleasure is mine. I've been playing your records. You know, when I was on CBC, gosh, it seemed like there was a Bill Coon spot pretty well every second show. So that was hopefully your bank account just grew from all that CBC royalty money.
Well, yeah, you know, the being the jazz musician, you know, that is kind of it's sort of like being part of the royal family. The money just keeps rolling in.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Heaps of it, right? I'm glad to have you on the show, and it's great to really spend some time together with you. When you were a young guitarist like David Dallas, you'd go out and reach out to guitarists that were really well established and quite famous, in fact, for lessons. So how did you go about getting in touch with a guy like Ed Bickert or Jim Hall for lessons?
Yeah, well, the Ed Bickert story is kind of funny because of course I had known about him, listening to the records, and you know, I was just such a big fan. So I was in Toronto visiting my mother, who was living in Toronto at the time, and I was living in Montreal. So I saw that the Boss Brass was playing, and I went down to the club to hear the Boss Brass. And of course, that's Ed plays in that, and you hear about maybe like one solo the whole night from Ed because there's so many other great soloists in that band. So after the evening, I figured I wouldn't bother him on the break. After the evening, I go up to him as he's heading out the door with his guitar in hand. And I said, "Mr. Bickert, I love your playing. Can I get a lesson?" "No." And he walked off. That was it. But I'm tenacious. So I managed
You
to
persisted.
I persisted. I managed to see that he was playing and teaching at a jazz camp in Kitchener, of all places.
Yeah.
And so I applied to the camp, and I went there about a year later and met him and got a lesson from him, which was a real highlight.
What was the jazz camp all about? So is this for adults? Is it like an extended education type of thing, or?
I would say there was more for, older high school students and, younger folks.
Yeah.
So I was there in my early 20s, and I definitely was actually, I met some people that I still know, like Brad Shigeta, for example. Yeah, I met Brad Shigeta there at that particular camp. I believe that also, I don't really remember meeting him, but Grant Stewart was at that camp as well. So anyways,
small world.
It was an interesting camp. And I got the last lesson from Ed just before the second week of the camp went bankrupt. So, talk about getting in under fire, right?
You got in by the skin of your teeth.
Mm-hmm, totally. So
what happens in a lesson with Ed Bickert?
Well, Ed is such an amazing musician and such an amazing listener and such an amazing guitar player and very unique, right? He's got his own style. But the one thing I don't think Ed really enjoyed was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could kind of sense that from the group lessons that we were having. And so when I had the private lesson, I thought, okay, you know what? First of all, I'm going to get him a cup of coffee because he loves coffee. So
You
I brought
brought
him,
him a cup
brought
of
him a cup of
coffee.
coffee.
Nice. Nice.
Buttered him up,
Yeah.
and then took my little, Super Scope tape recorder and recorded him playing songs. I just said, "Hey, could you play Around Midnight? Could you play On Green Dolphin Street?" I can't remember all the songs that I had him play, but so I just had him play those songs and went home after the lesson, and for several weeks, maybe even months, just transcribed everything from
He
that
gave
lesson.
you, it was almost like it was homework for you because you were wise enough to take your tape recorder with you and just let him play, do his thing.
I was just lucky. I was lucky. I think just the way it worked out, because I got to see that. Oh, I see. This guy isn't really. He's not someone he's not going to say, okay, now Bill, on an A minor 7 flat 5, this is the scale you're going to use. Like, he was not into that at all. So I just went about it in a different way. But we did talk about some interesting, conceptual ideas as well.
Yeah.
Very lovely, soft-spoken, human being. You just want to be around Ed. He's just such a wonderful guy.
That's a nice testament to have, is it, some people have a real passion and an understanding for how to teach their craft, but other people just kind of go, well, no, it's not really my thing. And we're going to talk about how you realized that that's your thing. Teaching is your thing. Just a little bit later on.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit about having lessons with Jim Hall? That was not in Toronto. That was in New York City, right?
New York City, yeah. And so I would go to Jim's apartment in the Village, and it was wonderful, really, because I mean, again, another big idol of mine, and I just thought it was important. You think people are going to be around all the time, right? But of course, Jim has left us, Ed has left us, so I feel very lucky to have met both of them and engaged with them a little bit. But Jim was kind of like Ed, although more. He had more to say, or he wanted to say more. Ed was a man of very few words, but he had a very great sense of humor. He was very warm. We played a lot. That's basically what we did in the lessons, is we played together, and he had this incredible ability to lift you up as a player and make you feel like anything you would play was the right thing to play at that time.
Wow.
And so that was incredible. Really, it stays with me today. I think about it, and I think about me in his apartment playing with him, and that's such a fantastic memory for me.
And that informed you of how to support other soloists or singers or musicians along those lines so that you can lift them.
Well, I think that's kind of been one of my strengths through the years, is that ability to get inside the singer or the other instrumentalists, the player I'm playing with, comping behind, and meaning comping, accompanying, and trying to, as I say, sort of get into their headspace and not just play chords behind someone, but try to do what I think both Ed and Jim did, was to lift those players up and make them feel comfortable, but also give them this kind of great cushion of support.
Wow, that's amazing. So you moved out to Vancouver. You said it was about 1995 to play with Denzel Sinclair, and those albums were literally named Denzel Sinclair with Bill Coon. That was your philosophy then, to be an accompanist like what you had been trained to do through Jim and Ed, and to lift Denzel?
Well, I don't know if it was like, you do things and you get into situations, and I mean, I was doing all sorts of gigs. I was doing trio gigs, and I was playing with a big band with Bill Maher and Jennifer Bell in Montreal, and I was doing lots of different types of gigs.
Yeah.
But this particular, I mean, Denzel was getting quite a name, and so there were some performance opportunities, and actually, he was called Denzel Pinnock in those days.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing this recording with just the two of us, which was a lot of fun. And then in 1995, I'm at my wife's, Jill Townsend, her summer cottage, or her parents' summer cottage, family cottage, in Nova Scotia, And I get this call from Denzel, and he goes, "Bill, can you come out to Vancouver?" And I'm like, "Well, why?" He says, "Well, I'm doing a show called Unforgettable, and we need some help out here."
Hmm.
So I basically a week or so later, I was in Vancouver, and that was 1995, and I never left.
And Jill Townsend moved
Oh,
out to be
here.
with you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Jill's with me for
That's
sure.
wonderful. Just for anybody who's wondering, Jill Townsend is an incredible big band leader and musicologist herself. So this is a very musical family. There's no loss for a melody in your home.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's kind of fun. If we're writing music, then I get to run things by her, and vice versa, and that's nice. She'll be honest. I can tell by her face whether she likes something or not, and it's always good to have an honest reaction, right?
That's
So,
that's something that's a rare thing in a marriage, to have a real good, honest, music reaction that's professional. Because my
yeah.
wife is always going, "Sing the other one, sing the." No. She's lovely. So you've prepared a couple of songs for us as well, and I'm
Yeah.
really excited about this. The first song that we have is Black Orpheus. Why is this song so delicious for you to play?
Well, first of all, I play it in A minor, so there's open strings on the guitar, which is just incredible. I'm sure David understands that part of things, of having open strings when you're playing solo guitar. So in this time of sort of being by ourselves and working on our own thing, I decided to go with that particular tune. And also, I just love the feel of the tune because it's a bossa nova,
Mm.
really created around the beginning of the bossa, craze in Brazil by Luiz Bonfa. For
Makeout
the
music.
What's that part?
The
Yeah, make music.
bossa nova was known as makeout music.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never.
They'd have
Okay.
makeout parties and play bossa nova.
Okay. Well,
There you go.
you can think about that while you're listening to this tune.
Yes.
Uh, but yeah, it's a beautiful melody. Let's face it. That's
Yeah.
just a great melody that he wrote. So, and I love good melodies. So there it is.
Well, we love good melodies too, so we're going to play it right now. Bill Coon is here as part of the TD JazzYYC International Jazz Days Virtual Festival. Really excited for you to hear this interpretation of Black Orpheus. Make out if you want to. Here's Bill Coon. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Coon playing Black Orpheus. Thank you so much. I have the applause button pushed for you. There's thunderous applause for your wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very nice. This is a new world for you to record music and to put it up on the internet.
It is.
Yeah.
My friend Brad Turner has lent me a couple of mics. Thank you, Brad.
That's quite a mic that you got in front of there too. This is, if people are looking to see that little red square that is on the corner of the microphone, that means it's a really good microphone. It's known as a.
So actually, I actually sound more like Donald Duck, but this mic sounds.
It just brings down more of the deep, dulcet tones, right? Yeah. Now, you thought that you'd miss gigs a lot more than you are, but you've chosen to kind of look at this time together in a different lens. And the person that you cited when we were talking earlier was Sonny Rollins. Can you tell me why that might be a kind of a time to think like Sonny Rollins?
I don't know. I think that I've thought about what Sonny did, and basically what Sonny Rollins did was he had I think more than one period where he sort of took time off gigs and just practiced. And one of those times he famously practiced under the bridge, Williamsboro Bridge, I think it was. And then there was an album that came out later, which actually ties in with Jim Hall, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because that is a great album with Jim Hall on it. So I've you get busy with things, you're teaching and you're writing music, and I get to, I'm lucky I get to perform quite a bit. And sometimes there's stuff that you want to work on and you just don't have that time. And so I guess I'm trying to see this kind of like as David was saying, as an opportunity to sort of investigate and explore some types of music, or more deeply, or something that I haven't heard before, and just practicing the guitar. Like I've been playing a couple of Bach sonatas, which are kicking my butt. If any guitar players ever tried playing those. So and that's some of those things I've wanted to do for a long time, but just haven't had the time. So I'm really looking at it as an opportunity to learn more, like some people say they call themselves an advanced student, and that sometimes if you look at yourself like an advanced student, then you're never going to stop learning things. And that's really important, I think, in this world, in the jazz world.
I couldn't agree more. And in fact, being an advanced student for any person, there's a time where, we go through school and we go through high school and we graduate, and then we take maybe post-secondary and whatnot. That is not the end of learning. Our greatest learning comes from the time that we actually choose the type of learning that we really want to do. And, I look at a guy like Sonny Rollins, who literally played a saxophone by himself under a bridge for a year by himself. And that's how he picked it. And for hours and hours and hours at a time, people might have thought that he was a little loony, but he was shedding. He was building his skills in such amazing ways. And that type of education, especially as a grown-up, you appreciate it more, and I think you progress more. I don't know if you feel the same way, Bill.
Makes me think of my very first guitar teacher, Sam Balderman. And he looked at me and said, "So you want to study jazz? You want to be a musician?" I said, "Yeah, I really want to be a musician. I really want to study jazz." He says, "You have to be a little bit crazy to do this." and I said, "I don't care." And of course, many years later, I realized exactly what he meant. Like there is you have to be somewhat obsessed, I think, to pursue this as a lifelong passion. I think people talk about the instrument choosing you or the style of music choosing you. But yeah, there is, and I think Sonny shows that obsession by being able to do that, practice under a bridge for a whole year,
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you know this, but I wrote a book summer and a half ago, I guess. Yeah, 2 years ago. And it's called How to Ikigai. And Ikigai is a philosophy that comes from Okinawa, Japan, where my grandparents are born. And basically what it means is that you know your reason why you get out of bed every morning. And it could be anything. But it boils down to 4 principles. You do what you love, you do what you're good at, do what the world needs, and do what you can be rewarded for. So those 4 principles kind of come together on a confluence that is really, the type of things that people like Sonny Rollins and professional musicians really go for. It might not necessarily be, the greatest living in the world in terms of monetary funds, but it's the greatest living in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pursuing something you're really passionate about. That is the greatest living in the world. And you also, I'd love to read that book, by the way. So I'll talk to you later
For sure.
about that.
Yeah.
I would love to. What's the book called again?
It's called How to Ikigai. Ikigai is spelled Ikigai.
Okay, cool.
Available around the world on Amazon.com. Yeah, I'm getting my own plugs in.
Why not? Why not?
Now you told me you told me that there was a time where you weren't really into believing that you were like a full-on teacher, but somehow you went and took studies at Simon Fraser University, and you discovered that you're really, really good at it and very passionate about it. So how has teaching become an art form for you now?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever said I was good at it, but I'm working at it. I'm still working at it. I do. I always, when I started teaching, like many people, and maybe David maybe agrees with this too, is that you do the teaching when you don't have a gig, and that's how I started. Well, yeah, I don't have a gig right now, so I'm going to do some teaching, and that was kind of secondary. And as life has moved on for me, I have started to realize that teaching itself can be an art form, and that it can be satisfying in a very different way. And I think part of the reason that I came to sort of have slowly come to that conclusion is because I was able to study at SFU here in Vancouver, and that was an arts education master's degree that I did, and it was really opened me up to a lot of different ways of looking at teaching, and and really helped me to become a better teacher anyways. So I think I am a better teacher for that, and just the fact that if you can look at whatever you do and see it as an art form, I mean, it's kind of like what you were talking about. We can talk about music and we can talk about teaching, but really the big principles can be taken and used in almost anything in life. So maybe not just teaching, but anything that you do that you're really passionate about can become an art form
and become rewarding to you and to others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You've prepared another number for us. Tell us about All the Things You Are. What is it about this that makes you melt?
Well, yeah, every musician, a jazz musician at some point learns this tune. I think I learned it when I was quite young. I've been playing it for I won't even say how many years now.
10 years.
Many decades, let's put it that way. And it never gets old. Interesting enough, you never really get tired of this song. It's always challenging. And Jerome Kern wrote this song, never intending it for it to be a jazz tune. Yeah. He wrote it for a show. In fact, I think it was his last show,
wasn't it?
And I'm not even sure that Jerome Kern liked jazz. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that he was a jazz fan. So ironic that it's become one of the best loved jazz standards. So yeah, I just really love this song. And also it reminds me a bit of Jim Hall, because I think he told me that he played it at just about every gig that he ever played. Yeah.
Wow. Well, here we go. We're going to hear the song now from you. This is Bill Coon. He's got All the Things You Are teed up from the TD JazzYYC International Jazz Days Virtual Festival. Here's Bill Coon with All the Things You Are. There you go. You're cooking on that one, my friend.
Thanks, Tim.
You really opened it up there. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I hope you play that song at every gig that you do.
I play it often. Yeah. It's still, as I said, it still holds my interest for sure.
It's all the things you are. Thanks so much for being on the show, Bill. I'm going to bring David Dallas in here, and it'll be the three of us once again, the three amigos, wrapping
Wonderful.
up the show here tonight. It's been an all guitar night, so thank you both for sharing your brilliance.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And, you know, I know that there's so many people that are passionate about the guitar, especially. I didn't get a chance to talk in depth about the technical stuff of your guitars. I saw that beautiful guitar you got sitting in the corner there too, Bill. I wanted to ask you about that. But we'll have to do it on another show, I guess.
Exactly. We'll do another show. Yeah.
Well, you're both welcome back here anytime, and I really appreciate having you both on the show. Another round of applause. I'm giving you both a round of applause for being on the show. We got a lot of people to say thank you to who have supported this festival, and 28 days in a row. Whew, it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of people that put on a lot of hard work as well. So thanks to everybody associated.
And Tim,
with the
just
show.
to mention, you know, thank you and Cody and Sam and all the people that do such great work here to make this happen.
We're happy to do it.
You guys really took lemons and made lemonade. It's been wonderful to tune in.
Here's to your lemonade. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on Jazz Home Delivery. Cheers.
Hello. Cheers.
JazzYYC would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support that has helped bring this virtual jazz festival to you. TD, Jazz Home Delivery, the City of Calgary, Alberta Foundation for the Arts, the Government of Canada, Calgary Arts Development, Inglewood BIA, CKUA Radio, Calgary Public Library, CADME, the Coalition for Music Education, Music Monday, Studio Bell, home of the National Music Center, Decidedly Jazz Danceworks, and the Music Mile. Thank you. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, please subscribe to this page, and if you want to receive more information about this or any of JazzYYC's other upcoming programming, please visit jazzyyc.com and become a member.